and go in here. That's what I'm trying to do. Put that fear into you. That's my goal. Would you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome to Greeley tonight, everyone. We've got you online as well, so we've got plenty of people to make up our forum tonight. First order of business, we've got public comment. If there's anyone here, if you'd like to come forward and state your name and give a public comment, maybe easiest to work around this direction or that way. Probably a Hannah question. Steve, you just might need to use your project.
Project my voice. Okay, I'll try to do the best I can. I need some lighting. Like reading my own writing. Anyway.
There you go.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Steve Keats. I live in Greeley. And it's been a while since, well, I've seen last time, but before though. First of all, I want to ask you a question. A while back that the state of Colorado and the state of Wyoming, as well as Cheyenne, maybe Will County, Larimer County, was talking about having a route from Cheyenne, Wyoming, probably all the way down downtown Denver via Highway 85 and also Interstate 25. Anybody know anything about the topic, or did they stop or what? My next one is that we do need an RTA, Regional Transportation Authority, or like an RCD, because Will County, Larimer County, the northern area is growing. And we do need a good, as they say, regional system to get people around for many reasons. Also too, the buses that Greeley has, they squeak and they do really high pitch. And they've been doing that for the last 2 years. And most bus systems I've been, whatever city doesn't do that. And sounds like they're a bad brake system or whatever. Also, the paratransit vans from the city of Greeley has paratransit. What they call it, really paratransit, the vans, the people come out the back if you're in a wheelchair, which is very dangerous, and should come out the side, because most of the people that have their own vans or people that have picks up people with vans, organizations like VIA or C-Trips or whatever, that Z-Trips and VIA, well, I should say our vans that we got new, what I understand, but we use VIA drivers. They come out back, and that's very dangerous. Everything should come out the side so people can roll on the sidewalk or the ramp or whatever. I've never seen anything in any other city with the paratransit vans or vehicles. Also too, e-bikes and e-scooters that whatever jurisdiction you're in, they become a hazard, and they're very, as they say, dangerous, especially for young, as well as they ride around the sidewalk. I mean, if you have somebody disabled, senior like me, or just anybody. And one of the things I like to say is the 34 regional that they're planning in Greeley, the route system needs to be rerouted because of lack of connectivity to routes that need to be like, say, for example, the flats regular routes of Loveland, you need to go to the North Station and not wherever they have kind of like on 287 south with Eisenhower. And also I want to think it's a privilege to be on the Weld County Mobility Committee and also the Northern Colorado Mobility Committee. And recently I got elected to be a co-chair, and I think it's a very much of a privilege and an honor. Thank you.
Thank
Steve?
you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comments? Any other comments online? If not, we shall move on to public comment onto our consent agenda. There were things in the consent agenda in your packet. But I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second. Moved in second, all those in favor?
Aye. Faster.
Faster, there we go.
Y'all are way too fast.
All right, on to the next. We have the Air Pollution Control Division was written, and then do we have Dina online? That was in the consent.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Clear.
All right. Hi there, Dina Voitak again, Two Roads Environmental here as your consultant. As a reminder, I'm a RAC board member, but I'm not acting in that capacity tonight. So I just want to call to your attention some pieces in the report. So first of all, first and foremost, congratulations on being awarded grant funding to support the Fall Ozone Exchange Conference that your staff has been working so hard on. So there was a press release yesterday, and I'm sure Elizabeth's got much more to say about that if she's not already.
Go ahead, Dina.
No, just go ahead and talk about it.
I'm very excited. The board had, the Air Quality Enterprise Board had a lot of discussion about the conference. This is the first application of a non-research entity being funded, so we're really excited for that. The conversations that they had though is they didn't think it was long enough. They wanted to see maybe another day and that they would be willing to contribute more funding. So we are going to be reaching back out and having probably three full days now to bring in people who can speak to the science of what's going on in the Mountain West MPOs. And I think it's the interest, the level of interest that is growing out of this is just wonderful. And once we get the registration all figured out, we'll be reaching back out so you guys can all register. But the next thing that we're doing is virtual town halls. So we think it's important to, while we're going for our call for abstracts, for our research partners to be able to put together from a scientific perspective what they think is important to talk about. We also think it's important to reach out to the public and our communities to hear about what they want to, what's top of mind for them and what they want to talk about at this as well. So we're going to host two virtual town halls. One next Friday over the lunch hour, 11:30 to 12:30, and then another one on June 3rd in the evening at 6 o'clock. They're going to both be the same exact meeting, but we think that it's important to really, have everybody, including our communities, participating in talking about what's important to them that they want to hear at these sessions so that we can help craft the agenda. The call for abstracts is open right now, so our scientific communities who've already gone through the AQE and been funded on their projects can take their projects that they receive funding for and put together an abstract for us for that. I think it's really important to understand what the Air Quality Enterprise Board has funded previously, so we have an idea of where the data gaps remain. Where are the gaps in all this information that we're collecting as a state and as a region, so that we can understand essentially what we still need to research and where we need to focus that attention. So we're hoping to get lots of participation from all over. So mark your calendars, October 26th through the 28th. I want to thank Larimer County. I know Commissioner Stevens isn't here, but Larimer County is essentially giving us at cost the ranch facility at the Peterson Toyota Center, which is easily going to hold 500 people. So there's going to be plenty of space. So the grant funds essentially are going to help cover the cost of the venue and food, hopefully for 3 days. And all in all, the efforts of what we're trying to put together with getting people who submit abstracts out here. Because again, we want to have our partners from Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Idaho, Nevada. I mean, we all have the same air quality issues over this region, and it's really important that we're bringing everybody, every state doing their own research, and yet it's really hard to bring all the people together in one place to talk about the research that's happening in all these different places when we're all facing similar ozone issues. So we're hoping that this conference brings just a great diverse group of people in so that we can have those conversations. So we're really excited. We think it's an opportunity. And then the Air Quality Enterprise Board also, they were really interested in wanting us to produce a white paper. And that wasn't something we had originally identified as part of the funding. So we're gonna regroup and go back to our technical group and really see what could that look like? What's the messaging that really needs to come out of this? Essentially what we were gonna do right now is just kind of document the event, who's coming, who participated, the abstracts, not so much of trying to come up with maybe some recommendations out of it, but next steps of what future conferences or future meetings could look like based on the conversations that we're going to have at this conference. So we're going to have to work through that. Dina, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that. Dina's been great. I mean, like, I cannot thank Dina enough for all of her help with the grant and her efforts with helping get this stuff planned. Our planning team, I want to thank Weld County for including Dr. Morales as part of that planning team. Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments has been, they're actually going to be the contractual agent for this grant. So they're committing their indirect costs to do the finance side of it for this effort. So their team has been really helpful. Becky, Jonathan is basically been our website master for linking everybody to our website, doing the call for abstracts. So it's truly been a true team effort between the North Front Range and Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. So I just want to thank everybody right now. I mean, we haven't even got to the conference and the amount of work that's gone in, it's been really impressive.
Yes, so you're hearing Elizabeth's enthusiasm. We all are exhibiting that. We're very, very, very excited. So more to come. And so watch the website. I'm sure Elizabeth will be communicating with you directly the status. We'll talk about it monthly. But we'll be sending updates out in between time. So if you know of people, scientists, studies that were of interest to you, encourage them to submit an abstract by June 23rd. If you know of communities, of people that have specific interests or concerns or whatever, I would ping them and recommend that they mark their calendars and plan to attend. So anyway, more to come on that. Stepping back a bit and going back to the report, just want to highlight that for ozone season, we did during those really warm days in April, we saw some high ozone events happening kind of along the Front Range. So we saw them in Evergreen, saw them down Manitou Springs, and we also saw them in Aurora East. And so that's not out of the ordinary because of springtime meteorology. We get the turbulent winds that brings that good ozone from way up high down low. Those are called stratospheric events. And then that's been flagged for those days, but I just want to highlight we're starting to see high ozone days already in April. All right, then moving to page 3. On the bottom, I've highlighted that EPA is acting on Utah's 179B analysis. And so previously we've been talking about what's going on in Arizona, and they're using Clean Air Act Section 179B that it says an area would have attained a national ambient air quality standard, kind of like including the ozone standard, but for international contributions. And it allows areas to look at specifically what the contributions would have been without those international contributions. Well, anyway, Utah is now has submitted something. It submitted it clear back in 2021. EPA is now acting on that. And so Utah's is similar but slightly different from Arizona. And I just want to kind of highlight a few of those different. So this is specifically for Utah's Wasatch Front. So it's not Salt Lake City, but very close. And it's related to the 70 parts per billion standard and an attainment determination that EPA had made based on data through 2023. So EPA already came out and said, hey, this area didn't attain, and therefore we're going to subsequently downgrade you from a moderate non-attainment area to a serious non-attainment area. This action from EPA is proposing to repeal that action and basically have that area revert back to a moderate ozone non-attainment area and say they would have attained at that point. So they would kind of stay as designated as non-attainment, but they wouldn't have to be continually downgraded, kind of similar to what happened in Arizona. So then moving on to page 4, you'll see 2 tables. And what I tried to do is I thought this was interesting. So if you look at the 5th column from the left, on that top table, what you see is what the area, after they go through all their analysis and modeling demonstrations, all this stuff, they're looking at that final, what they call design value, which is again the 3-year average of the 4th highest 8-hour average value at each monitor. So they're trying to project that into the future. Even though we're in 2026, this 2023 value was projected into the future because, again, we're looking back at work that has already been done. So that middle column that is it's F_03_DV. That's the column you're looking at. What you'll see is by going through a process to exclude the international contributions, and Utah's international contributions were largely from Asia. And so by excluding that, you saw the column or the values go to 70.9 or lower in most cases, except for those 3 that are highlighted at the bottom. And so those 3 monitors at the bottom, by excluding international emissions, contributions alone didn't bring those 3 areas, those 3 monitors into attainment, i.e. below 70.9 parts per billion. And so what they did then in that table 2 is they went ahead and they looked at, well, on specific days, were there other exceptional events going on, like wildfire influence that was not controllable, not something they could do anything about? And if they looked at specific days and what was contributing, and they've discovered that for those 3 monitors at the bottom that are highlighted, if they excluded between 1 to 3 days for each based on undue influence from wildfires, if they excluded the data related to those days with high wildfire influence, then it brought those 3 monitors down to below 70.9. And so it brings that area. So Utah's is different because it's largely influenced by international emissions from Asia, not Asia and Mexico like Phoenix. And it's also got a combination of looking at international contributions as well as wildfires and pursuing exceptional events for 3 specific days. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I know you were interested in that in Arizona's action. So more to come. That was just EPA's proposing that repealing of their previous action, and we'll see how things shake out when they finalize their action. Comments will be due, and then I think in June, early June. So we might be looking at developing comments on that. All right, so I want to move on then to page 5. You'll see the American Lung Association published their annual State of the Air 2026 report. This is always an interesting report. In my opinion, it creates some confusion because they look at air quality and they look at it different from how air quality planning agencies are required to look at it. And it just creates this confusion. But I do want to highlight that this year they did identify Colorado as one of 7 states showing overall improvement throughout the state. But at the same time, they're still giving Colorado a failing grade for air quality. So I'm just going to take the positive there and say, yes, we are working on it. All right, further, the report listed 2 Colorado areas as being in the top 24 most polluted cities for ozone in the nation, and that would be the Denver metro non-attainment area, so Denver, Aurora, and Greeley area, as well as then the Fort Collins, Loveland areas. They were ranked at 8 and 18 respectively. So I do want to also highlight there was a positive. They did identify the Fort Collins Loveland area as being listed as a top-ranking cleanest area or cleanest city for short-term particle pollution. So not great for ozone, but that seemed like there was some positives in there about particulates. All right, moving on to then slide 6. Or page 6, you'll see I included a table from that report, and it lists the 25 cities most polluted by ozone. So you see us there. We are number 8, and then there's the 18 as well. So a couple of things here I just want to take away, especially in light of the ozone conference we just talked about, looking at Intermountain West regional impacts. In these top 25, it's really interesting to me how many are found from basically Denver west to the Pacific. And so if you look at them, including all of California's sites, there's 16 out of the 25 that are all having problems with that. I think that's really interesting. As well as then if you just take the California folks out of there because maybe they're their own thing, there's still eight of those cities most polluted by ozone in this table. So I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to flag that for you. And last, I listened to a presentation from Ramble's Courtney Taylor on an analysis of the Denver Metro North Front Range ozone non-attainment area. And it's showing that the area is transitioning in terms of whether the monitors would be more responsive to NOx or VOC control strategies. The analysis looked at satellite data, and it was comparing this ratio of formaldehyde to NOx, looking at that as an indicator of whether the area was more sensitive to NOx control strategies or VOC control strategies. And you saw a difference over time. And so I'm going to have you look at, then on slide 7, there's a lovely red, yes. What you see, so these are 3 different years. You've got 2021, the middle is 2022, the third is on the right is 2023. They looked at the high ozone days. And what you see is we go from like a bullseye, to more scattered and diffuse colors, and what those colors are kind of indicating in the key below, this formaldehyde to NOx ratio. And it's identifying whether the areas are more NOx limited versus VOC limited. And you're seeing over time that it's becoming less NOx limited, but you're seeing the core areas in like the urban core, like downtown Denver, becoming VOC limited. So we're now in a place where maybe one strategy that applies through the entire non-attainment area, while it might help most areas in the non-attainment area, it may actually cause ozone to increase. And so I just want to give pause to that, give credit, and I think I'd like to hear more about this. I'm not sure that I've heard about this in a public setting. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and I certainly can't explain it deeper than that. So if you want more information, it might be good to have Ramble come and present. But I just wanted to flag that for your attention. So with that, I'll close out. We had a lot going on here in April.
Like Matt has a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Dina, appreciate the information. Back to the Utah conversation. I believe the way you kind of presented that is that the EPA is proposing a repeal of a previous decision. Who do they propose that to, themselves? Or who is the final decision on the proposal for the repeal?
So they have to go through, that is a great question. They have to go through a formal rulemaking process. And so they have to go through and put it out for public comment. This is what we're doing. This is what's, all the technical data and support information, what it's based on. They have to take public comment on it. They have to process the comments they got from it, and then take a final action. And when that final action comes out, it'll be published in the Federal Register. We'll get to see what all the comments were and how they responded. And then it usually takes effect within 30 to 60 days from when that final action is put into the Federal Register.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Dina? Scott?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Dina, thank you. I'm back to fixating on your chart. Imagine me, guess what I'm going to talk about? Fixating on your chart that is on page 6. And I share your fascination with the California and Arizona. There are largely people that have similar atmospherics. We're backed up against mountains. We have water, or we have air coming in off oceans. I mean, that's all. That entire top 10 there, you could make, with the exception of Dallas, obviously, and Houston has the ocean, but you can make the arguments that they are in similar locations, especially with mountains and the way mountains trap the air. Bottom line reason for my statement is I think that what Elizabeth and staff are doing with this upcoming conference is fascinating, because we can have these kind of conversations. There's more to it than the raw numbers.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Dina? No, thank you, Dina. We appreciate all of your insight tonight.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
We'll continue moving on. Next up on the list is the report of the chair. And I think tonight, given that we've got lots of new faces, I just wanted to maybe introduce some of our new members who are here. I know online I've got Will as our new alternate for the town of Eaton. So Will Sander is online, but in the room tonight, we'll start in the corner and you can introduce yourself to everyone in the room.
Thanks. My name is Brian Rudy. I'm with the city of Greeley. I got elected last November. You guys aren't fortunate enough to have shaken Johnny Olson. He'll be back. He has a commitment for about the next 6 weeks. He's committed to, so I will be here as often as I need to be, and I'm excited to be here. I actually sat on this board around 6 years ago when I was the mayor of Evans, so it's nice to be back and see new faces and do this again. So thank you for coming to Greeley. Welcome to Greeley, and thanks again.
Some of the meetings are a half an hour shorter. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Michael Orcutt. I was elected, 2 years ago, but newly appointed as the mayor pro tem for Milliken. I get the opportunity to sit here with all you fine individuals and listen to transatlantic, pollution and all that. So it's gonna be interesting.
Fun, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And got down here at the other end.
My name is Nick Bashford. I am, sorry,
No.
I'm with the town of Johnstown. I was elected in April. And, the neighbor's close enough with Michael in that sense.
I'm Lynette Pepler. I'm Scott's alternate for Well County.
And I'll never die.
I don't know that I'm ever gonna be at this caliber, but I'm here learning. Usually I'm virtual, but you guys request, I joined in physically tonight.
You also can't get dressed like.
Well, and I get a dinner tonight too.
Thanks for joining us. And Chris, you've been here before. I think everybody else has been to at least a meeting before. So that was our fun things tonight. So welcome. If you have questions, Elizabeth is more than happy to answer them all for you. And what she doesn't know, she'll make up. So,
We won't know there.
great.
You're all that.
Moving along, let's give it over to Elizabeth to tell us all the things we need to know.
All right, I mean, it's a bit, I know everybody's community is busy, but, MPO, we've been really busy as well. Becky and I got to meet last week with our federal partners with FHWA and FTA to go over our quadrennial certification review. You may recall last month, we talked about going to public comment so that people could provide comment about their interactions with the MPO regarding, our operations. So then following up from that, we didn't receive any public comment. But, then we meet with our federal partners and they essentially spend a whole day with us where we go through all of the federal rules and they're like, we don't know how your plan addresses this federal. And so we have to sit there and explain how we think it addresses it. And then they say, well, we think you could explain it better. So we say, okay. And so for our next planning effort, the timing was good because, we have our, public involvement plan, just went to public comment and a lot of their comments were on our public involvement plan from 2022 because they're required to only look at our most recent adopted plan. So some of them are somewhat outdated, for 4 years old. And so the timing though was good because then we could take those comments into our new plan. And so Jonathan has done a great job in a week of Becky and I basically giving them a list of all the comments that, they had and said, incorporate them in your new plan before we go to public comment. And including things like you didn't have an executive summary in your public involvement plan. So Jonathan yesterday literally put together an executive summary. So these are things that we're just trying to continuously update and improve on so that in the next 4 years, hopefully there'll be less. We don't know what the comments are yet, honestly. They're required to submit them by June 14th. So for our next, probably our July council meeting, we'll be able to bring you the results of what that certification is. We don't anticipate any findings. In fact, I want to say the last 4 years, the MPO got an accommodation for being involved in rules. Usually it's just recommendations. I would say their biggest comments and questions were like, we don't understand these story maps and how you're using them as part of your process. So we'll work on cleaning up some of those things and telling the story, so that it's a little more transparent for them, on the federal rules. But I just wanted to let you know, I think the meeting went well. It was also, a partnership with our federal, transit agencies. So Loveland, Fort Collins, and Greeley participated as well. Berthoud was also on the line, so it was just a fun-filled day going through the federal stuff. We've already covered, the air quality enterprise grant, but we were, just so that you guys know, you may recall, we had also applied for the safety grant. We were not successful in, getting that one. We're still gonna continue to pursue. We think it's important to have a safety conference in 2027, and there's still a lot of conversations to have about safety, so we'll still continue to try and figure that one out. Good news with our new IT service provider, they did have us meet federal website accessibility requirements by the April 24th deadline. The day before, the feds came out and said that they've extended it another year. So we're ahead. that was a lot of work for, you know. But we continue to work on, improving, our website and, the timing and the loading, and there's a lot of stuff that we have to do some maintenance on and clean up, so we're continuing that effort. You guys will be hearing our audit recommendation next month, so, it'll go to finance committee, and then we'll be bringing it back to you. I'm excited in the sense that, you may recall, we went and did an RFP and selected a new auditor. They're on schedule. So this is the actual schedule when we're bringing it to you in June. That's when we're supposed to bring it to you. So I'm really excited that this first round, they were able to accomplish that. I think that, it helps too to say, hey, this is your test run. Show us what you got. And they have been going through our stuff. We're gonna be updating a lot of policies and bringing those to you guys, because a lot of them haven't, as I said before, been updated for a lot of years, so, it's been good. It's been good to kind of have a fresh set of eyes on operations and how we do stuff. They're gonna give us a clean opinion, so we're feeling good about it. But that leads into, we are still going through transitioning to a new financial module, Acumatica, a new financial system, and that went live yesterday for our finance side of it. So we're working through 2 financial systems right now simultaneously as an organization, to make sure everything is operating the way it's supposed to from a financial perspective. And we continue to move forward with our, HR consultants on, updating our staff's job descriptions and, getting those to where we can put them into a compensation plan and bring the future kind of compensation plan back to you guys of what we can recommend for the organization. Let's see, mobility our mobility staff has secured 2 grants, one in the amount of $47,000 to do a closed loop referral for our Rhinoco, and $72,000 from Factor Transit funds as well. So they're working hard to get additional funding to help make the programs continue to operate. So I'm proud of all their efforts on that. You know, our annual report for 2025 was just completed. A copy was included in your handout so that you guys have that. I did mention that our PIP, Public Improvement Plan, is open for public comment right now, and will close June 21st. So we'll be bringing that back to you guys probably, are we doing a discussion item in June? And then adoption for July, the schedule for that. There's a lot of bills. I don't know how much you guys want to go through and talk legislative stuff, but I just, and maybe during, Councilman Jenkins might have some updates on some of the bills we heard about today, but if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, let me know, or if there's questions you have. But I am still reaching out to the communities and trying to coordinate times to come out and visit. And every community is doing it different. Some of you would like to just meet one-on-one, and others would like to have your entire board, council, commission included. So whatever is your preference, it works great. Typically, it's Becky, Tanya, and I coming out and connecting with your community. So be looking out for emails to try and coordinate future times. There's no rush, I would say, unless you guys feel like there's a rush. I don't feel like there's a rush, but I'm happy to accommodate whatever schedules work for you guys. So we're continuing to plug along. Super. Does anybody have questions for Elizabeth? Questions on bills that you'd like to discuss? Your legislative report is really super. Seeing none, we'll move on. Tricia, why don't you tell us what's going on at CTIO?
Chair, if we could change up the order.
Yep.
And that John could go first.
You should never let John go first. I know this by history.
I want to take your thunder on.
Absolutely, can do. John, what do you got for me?
All right, 2 important things have happened since our last meeting. One is term sheet approval with Burlington Northern. It was negotiated by the state of Colorado with a lot of help with a lot of people involved. You can imagine getting 7 organizations such as this together and agreeing on anything is amazing, but they actually did it. And, it was voted on, last 28th, of April. And just as a reminder to everybody, this is for the joint service portion of it. It's for the northern, you might know that, the northern, phase, the northern part of the project. Includes, Denver to Fort Collins with stops in Westminster, Bloomfield, Louisville, Boulder, Longmont, Loveland, and then Fort Collins. The core service agreed to is 3 daily round trips between Denver and Fort Collins as a starter service. Eventually, we'd like to go to 10 with the whole front range covered. That's a long-term goal, one step at a time. Target launch for the joint service is January 2029. And, this, let me word it this wrong, but it was promised as part of the RTD 2004 fast track. So, it's been a while since, they had it in Boulder and Longmont. Recent milestones and approvals. Go through the entities. All know who will be, the approval was the term sheet agreement with BNSF, initial funding for design phase and the capital improvement. The 25-year agreement with emphasis on cost efficiency, leveraging existing rail lines and shared public resources. The project phasing and current phase is advancing to the design phase. Key milestone based on this agreement is get to the 90% design completion, for more accurate cost estimates, and then the budget, we'll have a final agreement vote on that. And then from there, we have a finalized formal agreement. Like I said, that's in target, the target's in June. And then a notice to proceed is in January of 2027. All right, funding. Estimated capital cost, at this point in time is $330 million. That is half of what the prior projections were done, when they were done, which to me is amazing to think the cost going up. Versus we were able to get it cut by some coordination with services and tracks and a lot of work went into that. And they ended up cutting the cost in half. 156 million of it's coming from RTD. They had the fast track sales and use tax for several years. I'm not sure how many, but they were able to bank 156 million. So that's good. And then, CDOT, CTIO, and CTE contributed 176 million. CTIO, you'll remember, is the car rental congestion impact fee, and CTE was the oil and gas extraction fee. And then, top it all off, there's no new taxes for the joint service. Now, when we start talking about the South, they've been talking about elections and et cetera. But right now, we're trying to take the Burlington Northern agreement with that. You all know it's going to be on existing rail corridors. It's current and planned transit infrastructure. So there's a lot of details, a lot of capital planning that went into that. So that's the term sheet. The other thing that happened that's going on now is Bill SB 172, which is makes a number of changes to the boundaries and the operation of the Front Range Passenger Rail District, which is operating. And so this amends that in a way. And section 1 is changes the boundaries. Last time we did this, boundaries really weren't agreed upon. I guess I know the term, but they were kind of.
It was not good. It was loose, right?
Okay, good, thank you. So we hope to tighten that up a little bit, and then requires that directors of the board appointed on or after July 1st, 2026, reside within the district, unless that director is already serving on the board. That tightens that up a little bit. Section 3 allows the board to create sub-districts within the district. I'm not quite sure why we don't want to do that, but it's allowed by bill. And then section 4, basically lump different cities' election costs together, one statewide number, which saves us a ton of money. City clerks were actually big proponents of it because it made their lives easier to as the last part of the whole summer. So Last time I looked, it's on the Senate bill, it's on the House side. We've had the 2 readings, there's some amendments I haven't been able to dig into. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions for John?
John, on the sub-district between the districts, you confirm, deny, or just say, I'll figure it out. But, you know, what I'd heard on it, because when I first heard that, first thing I heard, I thought it was Loveland is cut up into its own sub-districts and everything else. But I think that's because of the BNSF and the UP, correct? So they could discuss the southern end of the state a little bit differently.
I think so. I'd have to look into that. It's more of a forward thinking. It's not to break up communities.
Right.
I know of. Might have something to do with the ways that we're doing it and.
Yeah, there's a huge big HOA down in the, Aspen Rock area. And so,
Get out of here.
and that has become the new stop down in that area.
Sterling Ranch.
Yeah, Sterling Ranch. Pardon me?
The Sterling Ranch, where did that say come from? They're getting a stop.
Yeah.
Where's that, for that reason?
Yeah, within the last 3 or 4 months, I would say, because, Castle Rock is now on a stop. And Sterling Ranch is going to be a huge complex for youth sports. And it's gonna be about 55,000 residents when built out, so it really makes sense for them to get the stop.
Well, weird though, that they're saying that they can't have you stop, so they can move the stop and then transfer it from the community just for a long time. They still want to have it forever. I just thought that was weird, I'm looking at it now, and so they feel like ranches around here. But I didn't see them.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
And I think that was just, they wanted a Douglas County, this is designated Douglas County.
I'd fight for yours as well.
I know you would. Thank you very much. I was at your meeting, I appreciate it.
Commissioner James, you have a question?
Thanks. How much money did you say was, being extracted out of Oil County? I mean, coming from oil and gas?
About $12 million a year.
Okay. That's going away, isn't it? Because that sent, what was that, 230? Doesn't,
230.
doesn't the compromise go away after 3 years?
No.
Well, that's just that. The legislature can continue.
Legislation after.
Oh, they can continue attacking Bell County after. So that's in perpetuity, we pay that money to the metro area.
Yeah.
That's good. Good for them.
So, CTE's share of it, will be, the big money will be the infrastructure, which is the 156 from RTE and the 170, whatever it was, 73 from CTIO, not CDOT.
So bottom line, Front Reach passenger rail is being used to fulfill the Fast Track's promise.
Through, yes, partly.
Okay.
That southern end of it, from Denver to Longmont, and actually, RTD had saved $190-some million. And the reason they're only doing 150 is because that's kind of how it's rated out. And then the remainder is tapped to finish Beeline, north into Adams County.
Would not be in line there, Principal.
And maybe the end line,
Okay.
end line, sorry, too many alphabets in that.
I got you. Thanks, Susan. Thank you.
Any other questions for John?
Not a question, but attending the public meetings, Tricia and John, I mean, like, there's been huge interest. It's really been amazing to see how many people are showing up to these town halls, just really excited about, Front Range Passenger Rail. And, even staff at our outreach events are now getting more questions about, Front Range Passenger Rail than like anything. So, trying to just partner with the district on getting more, information brochures, handouts that we can incorporate in our outreach materials, just because we believe it's gonna be a continued conversation for our region.
And I will say, we just concluded our first round of public engagement, so we get second round, I think, district staff is waiting for the legislation to go through before we start that second round. There will be another 3-month period of, meetings and town hall.
Very good. Hey, Sal, your GM has to respond to one email from me, and I would love to have it for. I can't get it. I would love to.
We missed you last month.
I was at the Loveland Town Hall for this, though. It was fantastic. I said that, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary thing for you guys. It's just, it's frustrating when, as a community, you can't get over anything very well.
And we are working on a, procedure for how we bring on special event staff and, thinking about too, as John Putnam, the board chair, mentioned at the Loveland town hall, that will probably be how we look at secondary stuff coming online as well. And there'll be, some process, but all the station locations will go through to be, part of the district as well.
A role, if they come from birth, if my beer's in Loveland, it's okay with me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So we can get them to stay in your time. I appreciate it. Okay.
Get that, everybody.
That's it, we got plenty of going here.
Is there any benefit to Bertha going through and doing station planning? But, so what surprised me going to the meetings, especially from the Boulder, Louisville, Superior, all that area, they've been doing their station planning for like 20 years. So they're like ready to go. It was really surprising to me to hear how kind of Loveland and Fort Collins, they haven't done any of that stuff and kind of just were told where their stops had to be by the districts. So now they're kind of scrambling. I don't know if there's any benefit to going after maybe some federal funds for Bertha to try and get out in front of it. And then you have a plan in place to say, hey,
Or DOLA.
yeah,
I'm such for going to that. And they just gotta have like a receptive ear that there would be any interest on you on that. That's what, why would we do that if there's no route at all? Right.
feel the dreams.
You built that thing.
In response to that, I think that the reason Boulder and all of those other communities has been planning their stations is because they were promised fast tracks, right? So they started clear back in 2000, what'd you say, four? Yeah, 2004. So they've had 22 years to try to think about this.
They're still skeptical.
And there will be there is some discussion about some potential 184 money may be available for some station within the Loveland Fort Collins area. So that's, stay tuned. That's not a done deal. I'm just saying, stay tuned. That may be in the discussion stages.
And John and Tricia, if you could, if you can push and just get a little more clarity on why it's broken up into the district, I think it might help us.
Oh, the sub-district?
We got it, the sub-district.
I think this is looking at moving beyond joint service, so if there's a need to have the north segment versus the south segment and have timing different on the sub-district. I think that was something we had contemplated, bringing forward a ballot measure that potentially could just be the north or the south. And so out of those conversations came the sub-district. I think this is more, just forward looking, as John mentioned, rather than something that we're contemplating.
Thanks.
Okay, well, Trisha, keep telling us more things.
I'll tell you one thing. So, back to that congestion impact fee, that was, something that we talked about at PTIO. And it is, being inflation adjusted. So right now, if you rent a rental car, it is a $3 a day fee, and that's gonna go up to $3.13. Over the next 4 years, we're looking at it going up to $3.37 by, like 4 years out. But this coming year, 2026, 27, it will be $3.13. And, then we got a really cool, presentation from the director of Winter Park, Guy Falk. And talking about the Winter Park Express partnership between Amtrak, the Winter Park Resorts and, ETIO. And we have seen some really incredible increase in ridership there. And a big part of that is that CTIO is using some of their funding to help reduce the cost of tickets. So total ridership for 2025-26 reached 39,451 passengers, which was up a little over 1,000 riders from the prior year. And that's more than double the pre-expansion ridership levels from 23-24. Train capacity increased by about 200 seats. And we're seeing an overall load factor of the 3 days a week of the trains running of 88%. So this is really getting used. So on Saturday, it's 90% load capacity is what we're saw over the season. And like I said, a major factor behind the ridership increase was really aggressive fare reductions supported through PTIO funding, which is coming from that congestion impact fee on rental cars. So ticket prices were capped at $39 one way, with promotional fares as low as $9, and kids tickets are half price, so you can get up there as a family. And the average ticket price fell from $56 in 2023 to $26 in 2025. So CTIO provided $2.3 million in support using that funding that was provided under Senate Bill 24-184. And helping to get people out of their cars and into public transit. So the other thing that we talked about was, I'm gonna let people talk about our joint meeting, the workshop where we talked about busing. But on the 28th, we had a special meeting, again, with Transportation Commission and PCIO to approve the term sheet. And we all approved it. Pretty exciting.
Any questions for Tricia and CTIO? Thank you, Tricia. Appreciate your. Oh, Cecil, would you like to belabor on?
I can do it now, if you'd like.
No, please, go right ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner, tell us, and then we can just hear how the fun things are going with busing.
It has been a fun time. Well, let me just cover real quick, the upcoming, what's coming up. I think that's important in May for the Transportation Commission is the 10-year plan adoption. And then also the presentation on the STIP, which then will be the adopted in June. So that's going to be the biggie coming up. We had another joint session with CTIO and Transportation Commission on busing. As part of that, we got a letter from the director, Shoshana Liu, regarding busing. And I believe that it was after our last meeting that the governor dropped his request for legislation to remove the corridor restrictions. That was dropped. So that legislation is not moving forward. There isn't any legislation regarding that to be seen anywhere in the near future. With that, that's the reason for Director Liu's letter, and I think the most important piece of that letter was that it removed the restriction on I-25 North being completed. As you recall, I was really frustrated for about 3 months there that it was predicated, I-25 was predicated on finding funding for busing. And quite frankly, I think it was a political move to try to get pressure on both North and South I-25 to back the corridor restriction. And which, didn't pan out, so now I-25 will be moving forward should the 10-year plan be adopted. Mustang, as part of the letter, Director Liu, informed us that they believe that they can administratively move Mustang to CTIO. And then the Mustang will become a project of CTIO, much like I-25 or 270, and then CTIO will have to look and see if the funding is available. And what is interesting is that people seem to continually forget that CTIO is an independent board.
It's a what now?
Independent board.
Right.
So when we fund projects, it is us taking a look at 10-year plan to see what the projects are. And then, being, asked by CDOT to take a look at if there are opportunities for them to partner with us. But this letter seemed to be rather prescriptive rather than asking as to the way they wanted to see CTIO fund that. It will be an interesting discussion at CTIO's board meeting as to how that will actually proceed. We'll see what how it really plays out. So more to come on that. The good thing is we've got funding for Mustang through the 27-year, FY27 year.
Commissioner, every time you have to give me a refresher on CTIO. CTIO is an enterprise, is it not?
CTIO is an enterprise.
Is this within the bounds of said enterprise? And doesn't a project have a start and a stop date?
Maybe not.
I don't know. I argue that. You may not, Mr. But I
Don't ever say that to a project manager.
Yeah.
They have a definitive start and stop date.
Here's the thing is that even with, let's say I-25, and the way I have viewed it forever is that it takes us almost, 30 years, 35 years, to pay it off, what we're building now. By the time 35 years rolls around, you'll have to really do some serious maintenance on that project again. It's kind of like what they did at E470.
Sure.
So does it end? Technically, yes.
If maintenance is in the purview of your enterprise.
It is.
Okay.
It is. So the key piece here is within the legislation that was passed with 24-184 is that any surface transportation project, including transit, be funded by CTIO. And that was put there in place in order for us to fund the rail projects.
I'm not opposed by it, I'm intrigued by it. I'm curious about the idea of being further fleshed out. I'm curious about the idea of being further fleshed out with Mustang. I mean, CTIO is not used to running a transit operation.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's the discussion I think that CTIO board has to have, and we haven't had it.
Yeah.
So, and one of the real problems I have had through this entire process, as you all know, is the process we've gone through. And because if the real problem was to fund Mustang, that was what we needed to focus on. But we got inflated with the issue of trying to remove the corridor restrictions. And that's where it's become a three-ring circus, quite frankly. So now we we are really gonna have to focus on the funding for Mustang and how we solve that.
But the independent board that is CTIO can prioritize projects.
We've always,
I love putting you in spots like this,
we have prioritized, any project that was on the 10-year plan that we thought had the capability of being successful.
Sure.
So it's the only project where we have really not, where we really didn't do a good job was, E47, or, C470. The west side,
Right,
and the
right.
southern side. That project is fairly breaking even. But any project, all the other projects have been very, very successful.
Yeah, I mean, if the CTIO takes over, bus tanks, they're gonna have to, funding, they're gonna have to look at the operations, and it was pretty clear from the previous presentations that the I-70, was, the ridership was way down, the costs were high, and the projections of where large shortfalls in funding were gonna occur, in the out years was on I-70. So CTIO, if they take ownership of it, are gonna have to review operational aspects of it.
We're gonna have to do that anyway,
Yeah,
no matter what.
I mean, it's,
And here's here's where the discussion is gonna start. At least I'm going to suggest it to our board at this next meeting, is that we ask our staff to do an in-depth evaluation of all the income, all the revenue streams that we've got within CTIO. What is available, what is not, what unassigned balances we may have within each corridor. But it'll include 184, it'll include toll revenues, and it'll include the STEP program, which is the safety program. If you cross the double white line, you get fined. That income. So it's the three main incomes. Did you already pay one?
yeah, I think.
So those are the three main incomes that we've got for CTIO is, the toll revenue, STEP, and SB 184. And we're gonna do an in-depth analysis, and I think John gave us good news and, about the total cost when we were looking at this initially for that, Denver to Fort Collins train. It was gonna cost us about $800 some million. And 883, and it's down to 330 something. And so that means that 184 monies will be, we'll have to take a look at where we are with that. Okay, so any other questions about that? Yes.
I have one question. And you may not be able to answer this because I'm not sure this is, I don't know if this is truly a CTIO funding question, but, the MMOF bill went, 1398 with retail delivery fee allocation. So my understanding is, a lot of our communities are now giving up their MMOF funds because that percentage is changing from 85-15 to 70-30. And I was under the impression that that 70-30 now is increasing CDOT's percentage to fund Mustang. Is that, do we know what CDOT's gonna use that funding for, their increased percentage?
I do not know that answer. We will probably find out.
So I'm only bringing it to your attention
Yeah,
because I think it's worth asking if you're going through and trying to find all the revenue sources and that bill now is changing our percentages and our local communities are gonna get less MMOF. If that's to fund Mustang, you should have that as revenue.
And we were told today at the staff meeting that change was permanent.
That it was what?
The bill changing that percentage was permanent, not temporary.
Yeah, but I heard that too, but I don't know what the percentages are, and I don't know where that is within all of that.
The MMOF right now, funds Mustang primarily through CDOT. So does that continue to go to CDOT? Now Mustang isn't gonna be at CDOT, and now all our communities had to sacrifice their percentage?
No, I was told it wouldn't affect, I asked that very question, and I was told that that part of it would not change. The communities were still gonna get, well,
So
The bill-
it
the
was
bill
like
didn't
15,
change.
right? The bill changed it. So originally our communities got 85% and CDOT got 15%. Now it's 70%, 30%. So
okay,
CDOT's now
I'll
getting
ask that.
double what they've been getting. And
Okay.
so is that enough to fund bus day now?
Oh, no, no.
Yeah.
No, we're looking at
So what's that what does that deficit do? Is CDOT committing then to that funding? Robert?
Well, the other key thing to remember again, you know, the commissioner brought up that we're an enterprise. We have to be careful not to lose, you know, with the amount of money that CDOT can put into an enterprise. So any funding that comes from CDOT to CTIO, we've got a limit. So even with those kinds of.
Yeah.
So CDOT gets to keep that 30%.
Yeah, because,
What I'm hearing.
or vice versa, right? And that's the reason why they're looking at moving Mustang into, under CTIO is because, you know, if it's our project, then it doesn't violate the Tabor rules. So anyway, complicated, sorry to take up so much of your time with that, but, more to come. If we've got a year to figure it out. Okay? I took all my time now, I'll say this.
See, so we know with our age.
Because that's all we're gonna do.
Quicker nowadays.
Thank you, Cecil.
Yep, thank you.
Moving along, a finance committee is written, and I'll just say thanks to the finance committee. We, had a lot of great meetings here lately, and we look forward to bringing more, like Elizabeth said, in the next few meetings to be more transparent. The TAC is written, the TIP is written, FANGO is written. We kind of touched on legislative, that is also written, and mobility is written. So that brings us up to item number 17, our labor market profile. Come on forward, team, tell us. So I know what our best plan is, because there are 4 of us. Yeah, okay. We actually have some slides that walk through the profile in a more efficient way. That's my best plan to give somebody the slides.
The USSR, the Soviet Union, and the old days, were showing self-destruction. We started, so we just kind of go to the lodge on this.
Or Facebook.
You remember MySpace, it was just as bad, if not worse.
At least this year.
Yeah, we never know.
Well, not one, this year, there was one guy,
That's, especially, but this stuff got short, sure, if I have to make all some city work, but I don't there, I'm gonna make this job, I bring this 5 times over. Yeah.
Really excited to have our economic development folks here tonight to
Yeah.
give you guys this presentation. I don't know, you guys, some of you may have seen this presentation already at other opportunities, but I think the great thing about this is being that we're Weld and Larimer, that our economic development groups came together and looked at it collectively. A lot of times it's easier to just say the Weld side looking at their side and the Larimer side looking at their side. So I'm excited for you to hear how they looked at this holistically. Because essentially with our NPO and what we have to do from a transportation perspective, there's some really great information in this report that I'm super excited for them to share with you. Because when I saw it, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense, but we don't always talk about it. So I think that there's gonna be a lot of good information from an economic development perspective that's gonna be super helpful so we've had our state demographer, now we're gonna have our economic development folks, and all of this information that you guys get ties together. Good enough teaser.
Good job, Solid.
I know, I said. You talked about the stuff that you want.
You want me to do this? Get to know who's in the section? All right. Introduce yourself. Hello, everyone. Fauna Kendall, City of Fort Collins Economic Health Director.
And I'm Rich Warner, President at Upstate Colorado Economic Development here in North County.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Johnson. I serve as Larimer County's Economic and Workforce Development Director. Thanks for having me.
And I'm Ann Hutchison, President, CEO of the Fort Collins. So as Elizabeth maybe forecast for you, we're a group of economic developers that have been working together for a lot of years. I don't want to say out loud how long. But we all certainly spent a lot of time as we made our way through COVID that really set the stage for us to have a lot of trust, a lot of support for each other. And that was the inspiration behind this labor market profile. Mark, Sana, and I, being on the Larimer side of the world, spent an even greater amount of time together. And we identified that we've been using in the region some pretty old data. Sana's team at the City of Fort Collins had created some information in 2014 that looked at Larimer County as a whole. And that then set the stage for what we call Talent 2.0. It's a Larimer County-wide talent plan that we used and executed in order to get to the place we are today. At the end of last year, we all looked around the table and said, holy moly, 2014 was a really long time ago. We managed to cobble together some dollars collectively. We hired TIP Strategies out of Austin, Texas, who helped us with our very first talent plan, and expanded the effort to be a 2-county vision of our labor market profile. And we've been on a bit of a road show. We're excited that this looks at, again, a 2-county perspective. It also sets the stage for us to really start to think about what's a 2-county talent plan, and we'll share some insights into that at the end. But to kickstart, we're going to talk about a bunch of things that you've seen before, some things you might not have seen before, and Sana's going to walk us through who's in the room for you to start to think about as we start to show some graphs.
Okay, so the first one is, if you want to raise your hand, that's great. It's really get to know your audience, right? And get to know who's in the room. So in terms of what industries do you work in? And this might be your day jobs, right? Because I know you have a lot of them. But how many of you work in government? Okay. How many in healthcare? This is rare. How many in education? Great. IT? Manufacturing? Other? All right. In terms of your occupation, how many of you, in terms of work, can work from home? How many do hybrid? Okay. And how many required on-site? Okay. Kind of assume so here. How many of you live and work in the same community?
And define.
Yeah, so it kind of gives you kind of some of the grounding of what we're gonna be talking about. The other piece is, how many of you have children under the age of 18 still living in your household?
God, no.
I
I finally got him out here about 2 weeks ago.
Mine boomerang back, so you know, that's as well, so, and can you go to the next slide? So a couple of things, Ann kind of told the story of, how we got here. So this is actually an interactive dashboard. You do have to have really good internet service, so just heads up on that. This is an interactive dashboard that currently lives on Larimer County's website. We also have it just as a sole site by itself, and we'll be happy to send you that as well.
Larimer.org/EWD, because really you and your staff can play with everything that you're gonna see today. It's an interactive dashboard.
No, I still needed to talk about the dashboard.
Michael's ready to go.
Yeah. So of course, one of the things that here, we just want to talk about, first off, we really wanted to update the baseline. What does the baseline look like on Larimer Well side together as a whole, right? Because we hadn't updated that in quite a while. You'll hear a lot about, in the 2014 study, we talked a lot about what are we going to do around the silver tsunami, how many people are retiring. And now we're hearing a lot more about, what are we actually going to do about the demographic cliff, right? There's not as many kids being had, so hurry up and have kids is what it is here. And COVID really changed a lot for every community. And so what we really wanted to look at was really the talent supply, who's here, right? Who's coming in? What does the pipeline look like in terms of post-secondary awards and programs? And then also, what factors influence that? So on the supply side, and then on the demand side, what TIP strategies did was take 2 years of job postings to really look at what are all the requirements. Because we've talked to employers, but what are individuals seeing on the job posting? So we'll talk a little bit about that too. And then we can go ahead and next slide.
Just a quick overview of why it is so important to get into this minutia that we're talking about here today. Basic snapshot, we all know that there's amazing universities here, great community colleges, 2 local airports, they're less than an hour from DIA. Those are all standard things. These stats, these numbers are all that usually a year in arrears. So actually, we've gotten the new data in, which would be 2025 data. Turns out there's $48 billion in GRP is now about $58 billion. It turns out these big numbers up here, 730, now about 750, 756. The Larimer County, the Well County numbers of 370 and 359 are just about 378 each. We're still growing. And these people are coming here. By the way, just fun fact, apparently people in Well County do get along better than people in Larimer County during COVID, because our native births are up.
Yeah.
But what we'll dig into a little bit more is the numbers behind these. Next slide. As we talk about this population, we go back and the great thing in economic development, we're a bunch of data geeks, so we track a lot of different things. So back to 1990, you start looking at the percentages of growth in this tool that you can access. You can do all of the above. You can take the things in this one. We started out, this is the USA right here. That is a growth rate since 1990 in this population, about 33%. Then you have Colorado, which runs about 67. Now we start looking at what's going on here locally. 85% overall in northern Colorado, 91% in Fort Collins. That top number up there, I'm sorry, is northern Colorado. Well County isn't marked there because they couldn't fit it on the graph. Because Well County has grown 173% since 1990. How are we doing? And the reason why we like being here today is because it's very much a regional economy. And companies hire from what's called a labor shack. And that labor shed typically is 30 minutes. Here, because there isn't a lot of mass transportation, it's actually about 45 minutes up in this area. So, next slide.
Did you guys hear that? I mean, again, from a regional transit perspective, the average commute in northern Colorado is 45 minutes because we don't have mass transit.
Time. Really,
The municipality who wants to pay for it, raise your hand.
And you're up.
So another way for us to look at the data that you just saw on the previous slide, that really is starting to show what is driving that growth in our community. So to orient you on the slide, the bottom is natural growth. So it's births minus deaths. Again, if we were to mark the Larimer County button, that number looks a little bit different than when we mark the Weld County button. When you put it together, we're continuing to grow. We're having babies and we're not having a ton of people die. The lighter blue is domestic input. So it's people from around the United States that are moving into our area. And then the very top of the graph in the lightest blue, that's international immigration. So we've been very, very slow to be able to attract internationally, but we have long been a very, very popular place for people outside the region to come into the region. Another way to look at the same data in a different way, and this is age distribution. So again, orient you to the slide. The far left is youth. Next up is young adults, and then the money makers, right? Experienced workers, and then we've got seniors on the far right. This does show you each community as well as northern Colorado as a whole. The data point here has been shocking for my friends in Fort Collins, is how very few children we have in households, while my friends in Greeley are continuing to grow their future generations inside their own facilities. Sure.
Right. Speaking of babies, households with children, 2023, you can see almost 38% of households in Weld County have children under the age of 18. And then it continues to trend. Greeley, 33%, Northern Colorado, United States, Colorado. You can see here, Larimer County and Fort Collins in particular, 10, 12 percentage points lower when you compare that to Greeley and Weld County. We're going to shift gears here in the next 3 slides to education attainment rate. So I think a couple of baseline things here to think about. This is a 5-year sample it also is people 25 years of age, 25 years age and older. So this is not our K-12 system. And as you can begin to see here, on the left side of the light blue, this represents people in our communities who have less than a high school diploma. And it then trends towards diploma or high school equivalency. Those with an associate's degree, or excuse me, some college, then an AA degree, then a bachelor's degree, and then it ends with those graduate PhD degrees. And if we start at the top, we can see a trend here in Fort Collins, weighted more on that right side of the graph, that darker blue, which is bachelor's degree, graduate degrees. Does that surprise anyone with Colorado State University? Larimer County, not that far, 31% and 20%. I think that we then switch gears in our Weld County region in Greeley. What really stands out for me is our people in our community with either high school equivalency or some college. And for me, I think a couple of highlights stand out here. The Greeley Weld County higher concentration, likely because of that technical applied type of industry base. And then, for me, it just really illustrates our public partners, our private partners in education really need to continue offering the full continuum of opportunities for our labor force here in Northern Colorado.
Sorry to interrupt, but I will. If you could go back.
Yes, sir.
I would argue though, and if I'm Rich or if I'm you or you economic developers, Northern Colorado, just overall is the mix that you want. Don't you want a mix of all skills?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, to me,
That's a
when you
good
look at
point.
Northern Colorado, you look at the communities combined, you know, that's pretty picturesque. in my opinion.
Exactly.
Pretty perfect.
Yeah.
You're right, though. Combined, we are something very special, which is really the point of the labor shed study.
Sure.
Yes, we want to find out what's happening in our own communities. We want to play with those numbers. But more importantly, we paint a very fantastic picture when it comes to talent and the ability to attract and grow.
Next one's, really, it's an indication of where our people, where our talent pools are actually getting trained. So we can see by award levels, 2 years or less, almost 26%, associate degrees, 14.5%, bachelor's, 40%, graduate degrees, 19%. Over here, you can see the largest programs, over 8% in business administration and management. Liberal arts, I thought that was kind of fascinating. Welding technology, 4.1%. Automotive, almost 3%. I think there's strength in our community college, in particular, there as well. You can then see health professions, make up the share of almost 12% of Northern Colorado. And you can again flex with this on the data dashboard. It really tells you the concentration of the distribution. And then last but not least really is program completions. Our big four here, CSU, Front Range, UNC, Ames Community College, in that order. You can see here. You can also see completions by largest detailed programs. And a few things I thought were interesting here. First of all, it's a 10-year sample from 2013 to 2023. Pretty steady when we begin to think here, but you can see some interesting 10-year growth in the less than 2 year happening here in Northern Colorado. Pretty steady in our associates and bachelors, and then graduate, a bit of an increase as well. So, yeah.
Again? Excellent, all right. This is gonna be probably the most boring slide I have. But again, to Mark's point about the steadiness, this shows percentages of total employment based geographically. And so, yes, in our major population centers of Fort Collins and Greeley, you see that very, very strong consistency. You don't see a lot of wavering. So these numbers are running approximately 37%, approximately 16% here, and then 46% in all the other areas outside of those two communities. When we started here back in 2000, about 222,000 jobs. We've added 100,000 jobs in this time in this measurement. And again, we'll dig into more of what those jobs are. Fine. So.
Mayor Freeze, do you have a question for on a slide here?
Thanks, Madam Chair. On the breakdown of the education by community, are you defining that as where people live or where they work? In terms of what level of education they have?
Gotcha. That level of education was broken down by where they live. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
So when we talk about the region and we talk about economic development, many of you are familiar with NOCO Ready, the Northern Colorado Regional Economic Development Initiative. This is a group of all of our affiliated partners, practitioners across Northern Colorado. Thanks to a joint MOU between Weld and Larimer County years ago, we concentrate on data, we concentrate on joint prospect work and joint marketing, because we know when we put all those numbers together, we're stronger. We can hunt as a pack and we can hunt as a region as it relates to helping companies that are here expand and bringing in new business opportunities. So several years ago, what we did is we went and we did an analysis of what was growing, what sectors did we need to concentrate on. Growth projections over the current 5-year period and the next 5-year period. And these are the numbers. You just go back one. There we go. These are the areas that we pay attention to, like sciences, distribution, and e-commerce, fabrication, production technology, food processing, and IT. And then the most important thing to any employer is available workforce, right? It is skilled workforce. It is who are we going to hire? And so as we look at these industries overall, and I won't go too much into this, but what we start to see is nuance, and we start to see different areas in these sectors that matter. This is a heat map, this is growth. So you can, again, play with this. If you go up and you see oil and gas up there, you will see it has the highest location quotient in the region by far. Why? Because it generates a lot of revenue. It doesn't even come close to any other industry. But we'll see here in a couple minutes, it has one of the lower employment numbers in our region. And so every different industry has nuance. It has a story to tell. It has an economic base as we go forward, and then mirror the employment recruitment areas that we need to focus on. So here you start to see, and as I was saying, this is a percentage of jobs in particular industries. When I talk about oil and gas, that's about 3% of our total employment. So why would we concentrate on that? Well, it turns out we should concentrate on that, right? But as you start to do this and you start to look at as you guys talk about roads and transit all the time as infrastructure, this is part of our infrastructure. This is what companies look at when they're making their site selection decisions. And so all of these things, when you look at healthcare as the #1 industry, do we recruit healthcare in? We do not. But we recruit medical device companies in here. We recruit pharmaceutical companies in here. But that is because there's a joint workforce opportunity that those companies can use those skill sets from different areas. And it goes on and on for every one of those categories. So at NOCO Ready, what we try and do is once we start getting into all of these numbers and all of these data, then we have to tell the story. And when we talk about these industry segments, there are companies behind it who are hiring people every day. They're creating benefits for them every day. They're creating health insurance for them every day. And that's why you see healthcare as the largest single employer, because when someone gets a job, they get health insurance. And then that makes those industries grow. So we spend a lot of time talking about all of our great companies, from Motherload Packaging down in Hudson up to Bobo's, up to Anheuser-Busch, which went through a nice expansion here recently. And by the way, I cannot emphasize this enough. It is so much easier to help our companies here grow than to bring in a new one. 80% of economic development, 80% of job creation is by helping our companies expand. And again, here's just another example. When we talk about production technology, we're talking about manufacturing. And you can, again, you see from small companies like Aquahot to as large companies like Vestas and Walker, it runs the gamut and it goes throughout both counties. And this entire area here, from Fort Collins down to here, is one labor shed.
Also, the North Run Range UPO in one trip.
I'll just hand it up for you, Rich.
And there you go. I think. Where does this mean to go? Who's you? Oh.
You said you loved it.
Now I have to get out of the Sure. Yes, it is. It's me. You are right.
This is your percentage one, the other one was your number count.
Thank
Sorry.
You're right, okay, so here you go. There, as we were saying, when we were talking about oil and gas, oh, no, this is percentages by area. Right? So it turns out in Fort Collins, there's not a lot of oil and gas operations. Right, but this is my point. Oh, I didn't want to do that. But as you can see, when you look at this, this is again where employers are saying, okay, where are the like-minded companies? Where can I locate? And the other thing, which was probably an entirely different topic for a different day, is they locate where there's an available site. And they need, whether they need power, whether they need a shuttle system because they're hiring a lot of people and they need a bus route. These are the factors that go into this. And so what you tend to see is you tend to see groupings, you tend to see clustering, whether it's on a micro level in the community. A lot of our communities, if you're familiar with suite level, small manufacturing, light industrial, someone will bring, they'll build like 7 suites and the next thing you know, they're full up with, Windsor does this in a really like amazing fashion. They can't build these things fast enough. And what you do is then you're getting small businesses in there that you are slowly incubating and seeing them grow out of these 5,000, 6,000 square foot facilities up to larger ones going on.
Can I just real quick say, so the dark blue is Fort Collins, the light blue is, or the medium blue is Greeley, and then the light blue is the rest of the region, right? To tell you where all of these jobs are kind of listed in that space. The reason we did that was it was, you were able to pull really the MSAs, but not the full counties. And so being able to look at the MSAs and then go throughout the region. So that's just how this is oriented. So that's why when Rich was talking about oil and gas and mining, this is Fort Collins percentage versus Greeley's and then the rest of the region.
An important distinction for anyone if you do not know it, and then we'll go to the next slide. When we talk about Greeley, we are talking about the city of Greeley. If we say the Greeley MSA, that is all of Weld County. That's what the federal government calls it.
Okay, shifting gears here, this slide's really telling us the job posting data over a couple year window, March of 2023 through February of 25, across some of these particular opportunity sectors: IT, food manufacturing, business service, aerospace, bioscience and devices, and then fabrication. You can see these are local and regional employers analyzed across those sectors through survey data. Unique job postings here in northern Colorado over that 2-year window. Again, these are public-facing opportunities. Share of the region broken down across Fort Collins employers, then Greeley employers, and then those requiring a bachelor's degree. So just some interesting data there. A few things stand out for me. Fort Collins aerospace, 81%. We see Greeley here, food processing and manufacturing, 59%. Let's go to the next slide. And then this kind of tailors into that, but these in-demand occupations across those then opportunity sectors, the top 12. And what I thought was pretty fascinating here, I mean, we can read these, but one of them required no education. One required a license, 5 high school equivalency, 1 an associate's degree, and 4 a bachelor's degree. So Commissioner, to kind of go back to your point earlier, having talent across that full continuum matches up with these top 12 in-demand occupations across these particular sectors. So.
It likes to give me all the fun slides. We also within the dashboard have what's called a job quality and access tool in there. So you'll be able to click onto that. One of the pieces we wanted to look about was when you say you're bringing in jobs, you probably want them to be good jobs, right? So high quality jobs means benefited, opportunity for growth and job stability. The ability to work from home can also play a factor into that. And then in terms of job accessibility, really the conversation is, what kind of barriers to entry are being put into place in some of these occupations? And how do we look at it a little differently? So that's what we were really looking at from that perspective for these industries. Just as a reminder, so it was 2 years of job postings and looking at 700 different type of occupations. So we really looked at it from that piece. So a couple of things when we talk about the next few slides, it's really about the quality of the job, the realistic access for the job, and then whether or not there's clear pathways. So we talk about the entry-level jobs and the great, career jobs, but what about the middle? And so is there a way to transition and find skills adjacencies in there too as well? So we, if you want to go to the next slide, we did just kind of play with this tool, right? So a livable wage here in Northern Colorado is about $45 for, I think it's 2 adults and 1 working and 2 children. So that right there is what the livable wage is. And then we wanted to look at, in terms of overall bioscience, what does that look like? So you see, it pays pretty well, but then we actually wanted to look at the difference in the different occupations within bioscience to say how many of those are actually above the line and how many are below the line in that space, but what is also the average pay of that. So we looked at it from bioscience and it looks kind of pretty great. Next slide. And then we wanted to also look at semiconductor, right, to show the manufacturing kind of components of that. So you'll see they're not hitting it, right? But they are providing good benefits and career opportunities. So that's the piece that we really focused on in this space. Next slide. So City of Greeley, I would like to give credit for it. City of Greeley partnered with City of Fort Collins to purchase this tool. You can actually hover over any zip code you want. And what's cool about this tool is you can pull down the industry and you can say, so this is Fort Collins, because Fort Collins, right? So this is for 80524. And it's telling me in bioscience and medical devices, there are 714 people that live in 80524 that have a career in that space. There are 1,483 jobs available in that space. So there's companies there, right? And then there is 171 openings. The other component that I would say is interesting, it does talk a lot about the differences in the different career levels in the bioscience careers, and then the educational level. There is a transit access and demand tool on here as well. So you can actually see all the bus stops mapped for, I believe, Fort Collins and Greeley specifically, to say how close are you to the employment hub in that space. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Baltimore and Chicago Metro Agency of Planning have actually used this tool specifically for mapping workers to the actual transportation system, public transportation system. So if you want to talk to how they utilize the tool, I would highly encourage you to do that. Oh, commuting. So commuting is one, this is for all of Northern Colorado. We are in Northern Colorado a net exporter, which means many of us leave our community and drive 45 minutes on Fort Collins 23, and I think Greeley 28 is what I saw in the numbers. But you'll see that this number in terms of exporting and commuting out, right, has increased as the years have passed. And this does not include work from home folks. So, just kind of keep that in mind. But what I wanted to show you is the next slide, which talks about now commuting patterns for each of the communities. So this is Fort Collins specifically. And you'll see here, Fort Collins is a little different in that we import about 50,000 people a day into our community, right? We can all talk about why that is happening, right? Housing might be one of them, right? Transportation, all of these aspects that come into play. But when you look at this, what we are importing in healthcare, manufacturing, accommodation, and food services is our top three. We also are folks who are in construction and transportation, leaving our community to get jobs in those spaces. But we've got quite a few in this neutral, right, where they're not having to commute as much. Can we show the next slide? This is Greeley's. So when we look at what does this look like, Greeley is also importing a lot in terms of the education occupations. And then you'll see a lot of folks in the construction and professional, scientific and technical, so engineers, those aspects also leaving the community for their jobs. So that's really, we really wanted to look at it from both perspectives in those spaces. And I think this tells an interesting story, right? People are choosing on the Weld County side because it's an affordable housing hub, is what I would say. And the employment hubs and how close they are to Weld and Larimer, I think are an important piece that we look at, as well as the transportation.
Listen to put the bow on this. But SAUNA started with a grounding in the room, asking how many folks worked hybrid, worked fully remote, worked in person. And that's what this slide's essentially talking about, is the share of business establishments with options, telecommuting in particular. On the left, or the dark, is fully remote. Middle is that hybrid. And then off to the right is no telecommuting. And then it breaks it down by some key industries. For me, gosh, no brainer, hotels, restaurants, bars, you're in person. Oil, gas, mining, construction, retail, trade, transportation, warehouse. That's a story there, of course. Up top, more fully remote, more hybrid option leads the way with IT, information, media, types of occupations, professional services. I was surprised a little bit by education. You know, a lot of kind of actually a third almost, and wholesale trade. So that, again, telecommuting options here in northern Colorado through a sample survey by businesses.
So to wrap us all up, A, thank you for your time. B, we want to remind you, you have the full report that was sent out in your packet. As Mark noted, access to the dashboard tool is widely available on his website. We invite you to get in and play. We invested as a collaborative to make sure that this tool was available for anyone to use to learn more about their own community, but also the opportunities that are wildly available relative to their talent and future growth. So we invite you to get in and play with it. Not surprising, the data is very positive. We all live in this region, we all love this region, and there's a reason for that. It's a pretty great place to be. And our colleagues agree. At the same time, there's some cracks. Sana and I have spent a lot of time talking about what are we gonna do with this decreasing population in Fort Colorado? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What could we possibly do to begin to change that trend, to begin to see some really thoughtful, regular growth within our city center? At the same time, we are excited that this is now setting the stage for an updated 2-county talent plan. So our colleagues have formed what we call NOCO Works. It's a 2-county collaborative of individuals that are interested in talent and what we're doing with talent. They've been out fundraising and they've hired CIP Strategies with their first tranche of dollars to start work on a 2-county talent plan, with the idea that if we have a map, if we have an action plan in front of us, we can each in our individual spaces begin to do the work that we need to in order to continue to see success and economic thriving here in northern Colorado. So, if you've got some shekels laying around in your bank account, whether that's personal or public, give us a call. We are still looking for a handful of dollars to finish off that work. And we invite you to stay tuned. The talent plan will be, fully created by really the end of summer. And, you'll start to see that team on the road in early fall, sharing the insights that they have, as well as the challenge ahead of us and the opportunity ahead of us. So, thank you all.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Thank you so much.
Yes, I just wanted, your tool for the transit for Fort Collins and Greeley, if, there's been a lot of, reductions in our transit services because the dollar's getting reduced. And so some of those routes are getting, modified. Does your tool as our communities update their transit routes?
No.
It doesn't?
So it would be cheaper to update it than the initial cost, right? But it is based on the 2024 because we started the project in early 2025. So it is stagnant but can be updated. In Baltimore and Chicago specifically, they update it. And so they actually do like a whole YouTube video on how to use the dashboard, how to look at the access points, all of those pieces. So it is something that can happen. It's just that we didn't have the funding to continue to have that happen.
But if you find the tool to be incredibly powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, so do you guys have your access to your own data? I mean, is it something as simple as we can give you the shape files from our communities to upload them for you?
So TIP Strategies does it through the Tableau. So we really wanted to make sure everyone had access to it. And, so I would say we would be sending it to them. Now, it might be worth it through the talent plan and NOPA Works, right? To be able to give them the shape files because they will most likely be updating this during that process as well. So I would say, reach out, I think, Yvonne and who on the Will County side? Well,
Matt Ward is the chair.
Yeah, Matt Ford.
But system.
You can give any of the four of us a call and we'll connect. Council, I think it's really important what we've been seeing with the demographics, especially, like from the Larimer side with them aging. We're really seeing an increase in calls for transportation services for our aging population. And we're losing providers, especially with this newer, non-emergent, medical transportation bill that has just gone through with the one provider. It's going to actually put some of the providers that currently provide a lot of services in our Fort Collins area out of business. And so it's something that I think that we need to be cognizant of when we're going through and we're bringing policy questions and talking about our projects and things like that from a mobility perspective of how do we want to help support our aging population, maintain dignity with their transportation services in some of our communities. So it's just something I think we should be aware of.
One thing I should say, the job quality access tool where you punch in the zip code, it is for all of Northern Colorado. So if you're in Windsor, you can click on Windsor's, right? So everyone has access to that. So please, if you have questions about the tool or want to, go through a tutorial, I keep offering and no one has taken me up on it. Happy to go through the dashboard with you, and I know Rich is now fallen in love with it, so he also can help, right? But please take us up on the offer because we want this tool to be used.
So did I hear you say this is a tablet backend? Okay.
Yeah.
Can we get a copy of the presentation?
Yeah.
Slides?
We now have it, so yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. As we continue along here, Jonathan, we are ready for you to tell us about the TIP amendment.
Hello, everyone. The April 2026 TIP amendment includes 4 project additions and 1 project modification for agencies. To start, we are adding 3 SF4A or Safe Kids for All projects from Fort Collins, Greeley, and Loveland. We are adding these projects to our TIP because all 3 include demonstration elements. Fort Collins has $925,006 SSA funding and $266,458 local funding in fiscal year 26. Greeley has $7,917,600 SS4A funding and $2,029,400 local funding in fiscal year 26. And Loveland has $396,000 SS4A and $99,000 local funding in fiscal year 26. The other project addition is from Fort Collins with the project Shield Street Separated Bike Lanes. This project features $58,000 local Fort Collins climate project tax funding, all in fiscal year 26. This project adds separated bike lanes on Shield Street from Mountain Avenue to Mulberry Street. The project modification is from CDOT Region 4 with the project US 287 median safety Berkeley South. This modification shifts $2,036,250 of federal discretionary funding from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26 and adds an additional $12,438,750 fiscal year 26 discretionary. This also adds $1,054,945 federal highway safety improvement program or HSIP funding to fiscal year 26 and $2,748,165 is funding to fiscal year 27. For state faster funding, there is $1,445,840 at the fiscal year 26, and $2,040,000 to fiscal year 27, and $4,649,000 to fiscal year 28. It should be noted that these are the total project costs, but this project spans both the Dr. Cog and North Front Range areas. The percent in the North Front Range area is about 50. The public comment period opened on April 15th and will close on May 16th. The approval of this amendment is contingent on there being no public comments by the end of that period. An environmental and demographic impact analysis was conducted for the Fort Collins Shield project, and that can be found in the packet. NFRMPO staff have noted advantages and tax supported adding the April 2026 TIP amendment for the fiscal year 24 to 27 TIP at their meeting on April 15th. That is all for me, unless there are any questions.
It's got a lot of numbers in there, really.
Well.
I am so impressed. Anyone have questions for Jonathan on repeating those numbers at rapid speed?
Okay.
Okay, so this is under our action items, so, I've got the correct, what is it you want us to do in the next step here? You gave us dates and.
Madam Chair, move to approve resolution 2026-10. All in
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We can move on to, already heard from Cecil, so Councilmember Jenkins, please tell us about stack.
Right, so this morning I attended the staff meeting along with Elizabeth. There was a public comment requesting CDOT to create a statewide bicycle committee similar to their other committees such as freight and transit. CDOT staff highlighted a few bills and stated they do not believe the federal government will get the reauthorization of the transportation bill done this year. It's not uncommon to operate on continuing resolutions until a new bill is approved. CDOT also updated the status of HB 26-1399 regarding the MMOF, that the most recent approved amendment will limit general fund transfer for the next 3 fiscal years. Then the general fund transfer for MMOF will continue again. House Bill 26-1430 was recently introduced to reduce the state gas tax from 22 cents to 14 cents and essentially reallocate $700 million from being transferred from the general fund to CDOT, which would offset Initiative 75 if passed by a vote of the people. So CDOT's budget will result in net neutral balance. In other words, a little Tabor shenanigans. Stack elections, Gary Beatty was reelected as chair of the stack by acclamation. And the MPO's Commissioner Kristen Stevens was elected vice chair, also by acclamation. The staff unanimously voted to approve the 10-year plan. and pass it on to the Transportation Commission. Region 1 provided a presentation on safety enhancements for vulnerable road users, pedestrians and bicyclists. There's one that I noted, including a new painted crosswalk design that makes it look like a hump, which causes cars to slow down. I call it the MC Escher crosswalk design. The Federal Lands Access Program, also known as FLAP, call for projects opens June 1st with applications due on August 31st. There is no local match requirement for these funds and can be combined with other funding resources. And I think he said there was like $30 to $60 million available, no matching required. And this is for signs, parking, access to federal public lands. There was a debrief about CDOT's planning process for the statewide plan and 10-year plan. And then Craig Hurst provided a great program update, which was actually pretty interesting. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for staff? Seeing none, we will pass the baton on over to Greeley. You're not Johnny, but we'll hear what you guys say.
Johnny's doppelganger. Well, thanks again. I'm gonna start with our merge project, which will build new interchanges on 35th Avenue and 47th Avenue under Highway 34, which will reduce approximately 40% of the crashes with the reduction of the signals on Highway 34 in those intersections. We're going to construct a new mobility hub to bring together public transit, bike and car shares and other ways for people to get to where they want to go. Create a safer pedestrian connection between north and south sides of Greeley. Decrease air pollution by approximately 40%. It increase the consistency and dependability on travel times along Highway 34. City is advancing coordination across key work streams, including consultant scoping, NEPA early coordination with CDOT, and onboarding an independent cost engineer. Progress continues. The federal raise grant agreement with remaining reviews pending from the FHWA Legal and Office of the Secretary. Procurement for the CMGC is nearing release while supporting efforts such as the project RACI and TIFIA financing models, the right-of-way coordination, the mobility hub, property acquisition are actively underway. Over the next 90 days, priorities focus on advancing the CMGC selection, aligning with the NEPA scope, securing the federal agreement, and preparing for the next phase of project delivery. Our O Street and 59th Avenue roundabout, the roundabout comes as a solution to increase safety and efficiency of the intersection and to promote better traffic flow. More than 11,000 vehicles pass through that intersection a day. Construction on the roundabout began in February with an anticipated project completion date in June of 26. The intersection will be fully closed while the work is done to transform the intersection into that roundabout. The 16th Street enhancement project we're working on includes wider and more sidewalks, traffic calming, improvement transit stops, and ample parking. Crews are wrapping up masonry work and irrigation. The city proceeds toward the final completion on May 16th as the street remains open in both directions. The Safe Streets for All. Greeley is investing $9.9 million to make these journeys safer with 128 quick build products across the city. The Safe Streets and Roads for All project is part of our Vision Zero commitment. Environmental documentation was approved by FHWA and Greeley is moving towards execution of the grant agreement to continue with the design process, including public outreach throughout this summer. There's a few updates there from the city of Greeley.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions for Greeley? Anything else that you wanted to talk about tonight before I smack this?
Madam Chair, I'm.
Oh, Matt?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I move that we remove Johnny Olson and place the substitute from Greeley. Just kidding, I'm sorry.
Second.
let Johnny know.
Mock, I can't mock Brian.
Well, join us next month in Berkeley. Will, we look forward to what you have to host us with. And Commissioner James, I'm going to make this like,
Thank you.
try not to hear you.